And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Pace and Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, April 10th, 8 EST. Thank you for joining me for episode 10 of Cinemaster's review. It is the middle of April, yet today, let it be known, we have just turned on our AC in my house. 97 degrees. Kill me. Thank you all for joining me today. We have two huge reviews tonight. We have Ben Affleck's new directorial effort, Air, as well as the newest adaptation of the legendary video game franchise, the Super Mario Brothers movie. I say because this episode is so jam-packed, we just jump right in tonight with Air. And joining me are for my first guest to be talking about Air tonight, who will be helping me review the film, is one other, once again, returning guest, David Nishimoto. David, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing just great. Ready to talk about a good movie here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely love this movie as well. But also, before we actually get into reviewing the movie, because this movie has to do with a lot with the shoe business, I wanted to get a super special guest. And sometimes you have connections. It works your way. I am bringing in my favorite guest up to this point. He is my Uncle Mike. Very lucrative in the shoe industry. Uncle Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing terrific, Payson. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on with you. And I understand your torture. Your mom's a little slow with the air conditioning, but we can work on it.
Thank you so much. So I actually have a few questions to ask before we jump into the review. Uncle Mike, what is your experience and history in the shoe business? If you could just tell the audience.
We don't have enough time here on this platform to get through that. But the short version is in June. It will be 40 years in the sneaker business, and I've been super fortunate. And to get up and go out the door every day in shorts and a t-shirt and be able to earn a living. And it's been a super fortunate ride, and I've been very lucky.
Absolutely. Thank you. If you would be willing to let the audience know, something I really love about this movie is that it does a great job at showing you how important this deal is. But if you would like to let anyone that hasn't seen the movie know, why was the deal between Nike and Michael Jordan in the 80s so huge at the time?
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things, and it was nice to have been in the stores when the shoe came out, and to really get to live it. Because most of the kids that are buying the shoes today, they weren't even around when MJ played, or certainly when the first version came out in 1985. But prior to Nike making that deal with Michael Jordan, really shoes were just shoes. And your parents took you to a store like Kmart, which barely exists today, and bought you a pair of Tracks. And you thought they were very cool, but they weren't. And shoes were just shoes. And then Adidas had a little bit of success using Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as endorser in the very early 80s. And then really from 85 on, the Jordan Air Jordan 1 came out in April of 85. And from that minute, it was a dramatic difference in the way the business operated going forward. And old guys like myself and Uncle Eric, when we went to the store, or your dad went to the store to buy shoes, they were basically white. There might be a few colors available, but in general, it was white. And that first Jordan came out, and it was white, red, and black. And like nothing that anybody had really seen before. And the success that they had because MJ was wearing it, the number of pairs they sold, how quickly they sold, was an unbelievable game changer for the industry. And really, it's really influenced even how the business is done today.
100%. Yeah, I think it's so cool how you say that because the movie does a phenomenal job, especially when it comes to like the color, like white being the majority color of the shoe. The movie does a great job at showing why that was so huge at the time. I have one major question I want to ask Uncle Mike before he leaves. But David, do you have anything you want to ask him?
Who's the most famous basketball player you ever met?
Most famous?
Or most that you love the most, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you went down a bad road there. Being an arch enemy of Michael Jordan, growing up in the Detroit area.
Right.
Probably my favorite. I probably have 2 or 3 favorites, but all off those Bad Boys teams. Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, that whole Rick Mahorn. That whole group would certainly land as my top guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you met MJ?
What's that? No, you know what? I haven't really met him. I've been at some parties where he was there.
Okay. That's cool.
I have a lot of younger, cooler people that work for me, and when those opportunities came up, I really kind of pushed them out there and gave them the opportunity because they would appreciate it certainly more than I would have.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Uncle Mike. Those are a ton of fun answers. But the last question I got to ask, this movie is, of course, about Michael Jordan. The question that we all ask, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, who is the true GOAT?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Both of these guys have done a lot. When you just look statistically, both guys have put up unbelievable resumes. But I side with MJ in that, to me, he did it when basketball was probably the best game, the best version of itself in those late 80s, late 80s, 90s, the game that was played back then, and much tougher, much more physical. If MJ played today, he'd probably average 50 points and 30 rebounds and 20 assists. He was an unbelievable talent, and just what he did to his body, and then his just how he mentally prepared for the games was really something incredible.
Without getting too much into it, knowing the person to my left, I know you just made David very happy with the fact that you picked Michael Jordan over LeBron. But thank you so much, Uncle Mike, for joining us today, giving us a little bit of insight. I think it's awesome that we were.
No, for sure, Payson. Thank you again for the invitation, David. Nice to meet you, and super glad to hear that you were a Chic customer. That's great.
Of course.
So have a good night, Payson, and I'm going to catch the rest of the show on my drive home.
Thank you so much, Uncle Mike.
Yep, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yep.
I have cool family.
That was cool.
All right. Well, I say we just hop into the review as soon as we can, if you're down with that.
Sure.
Yeah. So, as you may have guessed, this movie takes place in the 80s, and it follows the life of shoe exec Sonny Vaccaro, played by Matt Damon, who is trying to raise the business of Nike's struggling basketball division. He eventually gets a light. He eventually gets an idea of, how about instead of just trying to do mass appeal, why don't we make an entire brand of shoe around one single player? And David, as someone who is a big fan of the sports movies that follows the inside tracks of sports, I think of something like Moneyball, even something like Draft Day, which I don't think is as good as Moneyball or this film. I'll be honest, I was a big fan of this movie. David, what did you think of Air?
This is my number one movie of the year right now, and I think it's gonna be tough to beat. But I mean, of course, being a basketball fan, sports movie fan, this was right up my alley. But I mean, I don't know. Ben Affleck did like the best. I mean, it's so good. Just the way he directed, just everything was set up. The cast and crew just did a phenomenal job on this film. I mean, to take a story that pretty much 99.9% of the population of the world knows the ending of, and still made it like captivating and engrossing and like super interesting, is quite a good feat. So, I mean, yeah, I love the movie. Basically.
Oh yeah. You're gonna hear this name a lot as we go into this review. Ben Affleck was kind of coming off a little bit of a rocky foundation in terms of direction with Live by Night. I saw Live by Night when it came out. You could tell it was a big passion project. Him making this big, like, sweeping gangster film that I just don't think landed as well as he would have wanted. And of course, this was also during the time when he was like really focused on like being Batman, and you've heard stories that was not a good time for him mentally. And I gotta say, when it comes to Ben Affleck as a director, he is back. I have not seen every single movie he's directed. I've not seen Gone Baby Gone, but of everything I've seen, I think this is his best job as a pure director. It's tough for me to think about whether I like this more than The Town, which is tied for me with like his favorite movie. But I think from a directing standpoint, I think he directs this movie pitch perfectly. David, what do you think about Ben Affleck as a director as a whole, and specifically his direction with this movie?
Ooh, yeah. I saw Gone Baby Gone, and it was a great, solid first movie, and then The Town, like, just kind of blew the doors out, and just damn, like, he was like, this is from Ben Affleck. Yeah, that was a terrific film, and Argo was very good. I've seen like a little bit of Live by Night, and then it seemed like kind of like by the numbers sort of gangster film, and I mean, I think it looks solid, well directed, but not like as, I don't know, it didn't really hit me as much. But yeah, with this one, it's very tough because I just saw it like a couple days ago, maybe yesterday actually. This or The Town is going to be tough. I got to think about it. But I watched this movie and I was just thinking I couldn't see any like flaws in the direction or really much that stood out. And it just, I mean, he made it look so easy to me. Ben Affleck did a great job in this.
No, 100%. Like, when I think of this movie, this is a movie that's tough for me to like really think of like flaws when I come here to sit to review. And I just think, like, just from like the editing perspective, like the majority of this movie has taken place like within like offices, and you see Matt Damon's character going to talk with like Jason Bateman's character and Chris Tucker's character, and you're just riveted the entire time. Like, you're holding on every single like line of dialogue, and you're holding on every shot. Like, I think the cinematography is really weirdly great, even though it's not like super showy. A movie this reminded me of is Spotlight. Spotlight is another movie that like takes place like majorly in like office buildings and like in press rooms, but I'm so captivated the whole time because of how it's filmed and edited. What did you think about just the editing and like the filmmaking in general, David?
I mean, yeah, it was really well paced throughout the whole film. I mean, the whole movie is just talking pretty much, like, in offices, in houses, offices, whatever. But I think Ben Affleck did a superb job, like painting the 80s, setting this in the 80s, feeling like the 80s setting, and just taking us back in that time. And congrats to the writer, like Alex Convery.
Yes,
I believe that might be his first credited theatrical film ever. But great. I mean, every piece of dialogue, every piece of the structure itself was just really well done. I mean, I was still like thinking, are they gonna sign Michael at the end? Like, I don't know. It's like that was a perfect, great pacing, great editing all around.
No, the movie definitely had you like, even though like you said, I think 90% of people know how this movie is gonna end if you've walked outside and you've seen the Air Jordan shoe. But I think it still just has you at the edge of your seat the whole time because the dialogue is so good, because the editing is so good. No, I think this movie is really wonderfully shot. And something I love, we don't get too many movies like this. Like, I was just thinking while watching it, like, just good, like, old school style, like, dramas like this of just people, like, just trying to accomplish something. Like, we don't get too many mid-budget movies like this, and I love, like, this, like, throwback style of filmmaking. It weirdly reminds me of another Matt Damon movie, Ford v Ferrari, I'm not sure if you saw that. I just love these like really like cool adult dramas like this. David, do you wish we got more adult dramas like this?
Of course. I mean, this is kind of, it's like a feel good, like just a fun, like just, I don't know, it makes you feel good at the end, a good drama like that. So I mean, yeah, we get this not that too often, but yeah, it's always great to see one of these come time to time. So, and it didn't really like I don't think like sugar coated anything. I felt like it was still like it told like the actual story. I don't think it like glossed over that much. I feel it's just a great moment in history that like I think it was captured beautifully.
Even if you're not like a super like sports head, the movie makes you care just because of how much the characters care about everything. Like you see why Sonny is so invested in this, how he's just like this big basketball fan and he wants Nike to succeed, even though Phil Knight, played by Ben Affleck, at first is like, we don't need this. Like, why do we? He weirdly has like an Office Space like mentality at the beginning of like, what exactly do you do here? And I found that kind of funny. And the whole movie is Sonny just trying to like fight with him to say like, no, we can be the biggest shoe company in the world if we land this deal. And I really, really loved that.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. Being a big basketball fan, I don't really know much about the beginnings of these shoe companies. So to learn about like the color law thing with the shoes and all this other stuff, like that Adidas was like the top shoe at the time, and then Converse, and Nike was just known as a track and field running shoe, not basketball. It was just very interesting. I was very like just wanting to know more about all the inner workings of the office of the shoe industry. And then, I mean, personally, being from like marketing field myself, it's just very interesting to see how like what they did in the 80s and how they did it. It's pretty much, it's not that similar, that different from us today. But yeah, I mean, it's totally just great, interesting look into that field.
That is really cool, Uncle Mike.
Great.
Yeah. And I just want to get into it right now. This is maybe, I have not seen The Talented Mr. Ripley, which I have heard from many people. I've heard many people say that might be Damon's best performance. Of everything I've seen, maybe my favorite Matt Damon performance. He is incredible here. He's grounded. He's not very like showy. Right. I love that they didn't like make him like this super like movie star looking character. Like he looks like a
belly.
Yeah. He definitely has a belly, and then they comment on that. And I think he just does an incredible job at making you invested in every line. In like, he really sells like these humorous moments. What did you think of Matt Damon in this movie?
Oh, I totally agree. This is like this is the best performance I've ever seen from Matt Damon, including I've seen Talented Mr. Ripley, and it was very good. But this one, I could totally just bought into his passion, his drive to like, just, it's not about money. It's not about like, it's about pure like just finding a generational talent, and then trying to highlight that with Nike. And then, I mean, there's two speeches that Matt Damon has in this movie. Both of them, I thought the first one was like incredible enough, and then it comes to the last monologue, and it just brought me to tears, actually. I mean, Ben Affleck did a great job directing his buddy in this film. He's definitely going to be nominated for an Oscar. I feel like he could win this time. It's that good to me, but we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, right now it is my favorite performance of Matt Damon.
Yeah, 100%. It's always tough to like predict like the Oscar season like early on, but like I definitely like, at least from like a direction standpoint, it would be tough to see a world where Affleck doesn't at least get a nomination for this movie. Speaking of the entire, like, not just Matt Damon, I think the entire supporting cast, whether it's Jason Bateman, who plays the vice president of the shoe marketing department of Nike, with his name is Rob Strasser. I think Viola Davis is phenomenal as Michael Jordan's mom.
Yeah.
And an understated performance that I think is might go unnoticed because he's not as big of a name, Matthew Marr as Peter Moore, the man who actually makes the shoe. There was a point when he first shows up where I'm like, is this going to be too cartoony? Because the character has a major lisp, and like you're introduced to the movie. He's in like the top of the Nike building. It's a dark room. And he's just creating shoes. But I loved this character so much because this is totally how he would be. He just views he doesn't think of many things except for the actual shoe. There are certain contributions that this character made to the actual brand. What was your favorite like supporting performance in this movie, David?
I gotta talk about Chris Messina as
He's
David
great.
Falk. Oh yeah, he's incredible in this film. Like it's also the best I've seen from him too. But he's been a great actor. I've seen a lot in other films, but yeah, he really shines in this one. So it's great performance by him. The whole cast is just terrific. I mean, Viola Davis is always perfect, and she's very natural in this film as Jordan's mom. Even Chris Tucker was really good. I mean, he comes in and to these indie movies and just does a knockout job every time. So
I love modern day Tucker. I enjoy the Chris Tucker of the 90s, very comedic. This is so much different where he's like, I want to prove to the world that like I'm not just like the Chris Tucker archetype.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, even with Silver Linings and this one, like it's always he's great when he shows up in these films now. I mean, Marlon Williams is good in a small role, and Jason Bateman really did a great job too. Yeah, so I mean, all around cast is like perfect. Did you see Jay Moore in that too? Did you catch him? It's like what? It's like great recognizable faces in there in that movie. Did a great job. Even Ben Affleck was hilarious too as well.
Oh, Ben Affleck is so funny. Like if you have seen the trailer, he rocks that wig so good. Like honestly, if this movie gets a hair and makeup nomination, it will be completely deserved. Like I would adore that. Jason Bateman, it feels like he could play this type of role in his sleep. Like this slightly sarcastic guy that like doesn't really like what his partner is doing, but like you still kind of like him. I think is so much fun.
Yeah, it took. I mean, Affleck took everyone's best sensibilities and just made it shine in each role in this movie.
No, 100%. I mentioned it earlier, but like the behind the scenes nature of this sports film, like we've seen sports movies that like really get into like the like management of it and like the strategy. This goes an even farther lane of like we're now at edge removed. Like I think calling this a sports movie is weirdly kind of a stretch, but like I totally get if someone would call it that. But like I just love how much it makes me care about like shoes. Like I think of like the speech that Peter Moore gives about how when Michael's like when Sonny says, hey, can we make this shoe like half red, half white for Michael? And it's like, we can't do that. NBA regulation says all shoes have to be white. And just that badass moment of Sonny being like, okay, we'll pay the fine.
Yeah.
And the second you hear that, you're like, yeah, that would just make Nike look so much cooler that they're willing to put the extra money in to make these shoes super cool. Did you have any did you have a favorite moment of like the behind the scenes stuff, David?
I really enjoyed one of the beginning scenes when they were talking about the NBA draft. They're in the meeting room and they're going down the list of all the players and just like kind of critiquing each player, which one they should sign, which one would be great for their brand. It's just they had John Stockton in there, they had a bunch of like known names. Sadly they talked about one player that like, oh, I hope the families like have humor when watching this. And then it was just very interesting to go down, like see how Nike actually like. I didn't know Nike had they're also their own like kind of like basketball scout like that too. I wonder if they still do that. That goes around and just looks for the next player to sign for their brand. So that was really interesting to see. Like, just seeing the all around like office, like talking about the budgeting, talking about how much they could like offer this player, like how much, all that kind of stuff, all the marketing tactics they try to get. That was the most interesting stuff about it. Yeah.
The Payson's love for shoes moved into the top of my favorite. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I will take it.
Also the Jordan shoe is like the number one like most iconic shoe, I feel like, ever.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you don't like basketball or whatever. Everybody, a lot of people knows what it looks like. A lot of people wear it, even though they play sports. I see everybody wears it every day. It's like at the time, I guess they didn't feel like it was such a like historic moment when they signed Jordan, but then that moment like kind of just changed the whole landscape of American culture or even world culture, like ever.
One of my favorite moments is towards the end of the film where Michael Jordan's like, okay, yeah, I will side, and this is not a spoiler, it's history. I'm sorry. When Michael Jordan says, okay, I will sign with Nike, but I get a cut of every shoe. Like, and the fact that all the Nike execs are like, hold on, we can't allow that. And us as the audience is like, how can you not allow that? You're using his name. You're using his likeness. Like,
it's totally fair. It's totally
Yeah.
fair. Yeah. It's like, you don't, he's greedy. He wants money. No, this is like, he's going off his name. They're calling it Air Jordan. He should get like some cut of it. And then it just set the precipice of like the history of what they do today now. So
like something incredible I think about this film is we're rooting for Sonny the whole time. I think the heart of the movie is Dolores Jordan, played by Michael Jordan, because like you're not really rooting for Chris Messina as David Falk, even though he's on Michael Jordan's side, simply because he is like that, like he weirdly is sort of like, I guess, the villain of the movie, as like the villainous sports agent. But like you get why Dolores wants the best for her kid and why she's going to support Michael through everything. And when we first meet Dolores, she says, look, Michael will take any single shoe contract except for Nike. And the movie does a great job at showing you why Nike had this sort of like uncool vibe to it at the time. And I think the movie just does a phenomenal job at that. One of my favorite scenes towards the beginning with that draft is just Sonny like roasting all the execs of being like, hey, I think that player would be really good. It's like, oh, why? And it's like, oh, I games like, just admit you like him because he's at the top of the draft pick. No one's gonna make fun of you. I
love that scene too. Yeah,
I really love that. I love the scene where Sonny goes to Peter and says, why don't you just make like a new type of shoe? And Peter's like, in the entire history of shoes, there's only been one major. And just that whole thing of saying, like, look, we're not going to make a new shoe. We can try to make a cool shoe. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. It's a shoe. Like, calm down.
I mean, it's just very interesting to see, like, inside the meetings of Adidas and the other shoe companies that Michael and the family visits, and then Nike, just how different they were. And then just the presentation. Just all the pitching, the marketing, everything. It's very interesting. It's like watching a business meeting happen in front of you, but just being super engaged with it.
Weirdly, like business movies, and like I always find like a subgenre that I really enjoy is like people being good at their jobs, and I think this is a great example of that. Like I would put like broadcast news in there of just like people in a profession and they're good at it. And I think you're really good at seeing that final major pitch that Matt Damon's Sonny does in that final room. I think is great. The way how this movie shows how how Converse, Adidas, and Nike are completely different from each other, I think is great. The last thing I really want to touch on is I think this movie does a great job at capturing the 80s.
Yeah.
Like I think the fashion is great. It's not like super in your face. I love the soundtrack. I wish I could remember the name of the song, but it's the song that Alfred Molina's character sings in Boogie Nights during the drug deal scene of like the motorin.
Oh, yeah, it's motorin. It's just motorin, I think.
Yeah. Every time I hear that song, that's the scene I think of. But when it hits the movie, I'm like, let's go.
Dude, yeah, the soundtrack was killer, man. I mean, they picked songs that like I felt like it's not overused. I feel like in other movies, it was like perfectly selected for each scene it was in, and it just fits so well for the movie. Like the beginning song with I want my MTV, and it just set the whole the setting for this. And then the opening montage, by the way, was
was
great. Again, you got your transported right to the 80s. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I was pretty impressed by the way Ben Affleck kind of like set the whole film up. Like, just again, it just transported you right to the 80s. Like, it didn't feel like it was actors and costumes or anything like that. It was very natural. And yeah, the soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I've pretty much said about everything I want to say about the film. Are you willing to get into final scores?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. In case it's your first time watching, we review movies on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes. 0 videotapes is awful, painful experience, one that that's going to stick with you in the worst way possible, and one that you wish you could forget. And 10 videotapes is incredible, an all-timer for you, going to go down as a personal favorite, and one that will stick with you in the best way possible and reminds you why you love movies. David, on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, what would you give this movie?
I don't do this very often, but this movie deserves it, so I'm going to give it a 10. 10 out of 10.
The first 10 of the show. Nice.
Yep, well deserved. It's as perfect movie as I could have imagined for this story. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think it's tempting. Like, I think this is one of the most like fun watchable movies I've seen in a while. And once again, it's one of those ones I wish we got more and more each year. I think I'm gonna stop at 9.5. I'm gonna go 9.5. It's the second 9.5 I've given. I still just wanna I wanna wait for that 10. Even though this one does tempt me. But yeah, I think Ben Affleck does such an incredible job. I could not have believed how much I would care about just the shoe industry as a whole. But I think this movie does a great job at doing that. And yeah, like, even though this Best Director class is going to be stacked this year because we got Nolan's going to be getting nominated, Scorsese's probably going to be getting nominated.
Right.
Alexander Payne has a new movie coming out. Gerwig could come in there, but I really hope Affleck gets a full. I hope the season doesn't forget about Affleck.
Yeah, not like no Argo mistake this time. Hopefully, it's at least he'll get a nomination. Hopefully,
I think the fact that he didn't get nominated for Argo is going to help him get a nomination for this movie, because I think the Academy still looks back on that where like he was the favorite to win and he didn't even get nominated, which is weirdly why I think that movie won Best Picture, because they felt so bad by the fact that they didn't even nominate him.
That's funny.
Well, before we leave, I'm just going to open up in case anyone has any more questions and comments for us. But David, before you leave tonight, I just got to ask, who is your favorite basketball player of all time?
Okay, I get a lot of shit for this, but I personally love him. I like him a lot. I'm a Celtics fan too, so Paul Pierce is one of my favorites. It's the truth. He's not the best player, but he's one of my favorites to watch. But I mean, right now, who's playing? I would say Kawhi Leonard is my favorite current player playing right now. And yeah, I don't like LeBron James.
Fair. Honestly, when you said you were a Boston Celtics guy, I thought you were gonna say Larry Bird, and I
haven't watched that.
And I wish I had the sound cue from Do the Right Thing of all the characters going like, "Oh!" what that one guy says. Yeah. As someone who watched the Phoenix Suns, who was a big Suns guy back in the mid 2000s, I'm always gonna have a soft spot for Steve Nash. Like
nice.
That,
yeah.
He's always gonna be my guy. Unfortunately, never won a championship, but just an incredible player. And yeah, I was gonna ask you who you think the GOAT was between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, but knowing you, I think you can.
Come on, Jordan. Come on, always.
Nice.
Never's gonna. Yeah, not by LeBron at least. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me tonight, David. It's always a pleasure to talk movies with you. I'm so happy we got to review tonight, and you now get to go down in history in Cinemaster's reviews as the first ever 10 out of 10 videotapes.
Thank you for having me again. Yeah, I can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely, yeah, we'll definitely be getting you on. Have a great night. Thank you so much, David. Always a pleasure, and thank you, Uncle Mike, for joining me. But I say we just hop in to our second review for the night, because it is just as big, as far as I'm concerned, the Super Mario Brothers movie. And joining me tonight is another video store alum, all the way from Canada, the man himself, Brooklyn Vale. Brooklyn, how are you doing tonight?
We're doing great. So you were talking earlier about how it's the first time you guys are turning on AC for the year. It's the first day I'm wearing shorts in the year of 2023. It's just warming up, like it was 15 degrees Celsius. So I think that's like high 60s, low 70s for you guys. So it was fucking gorgeous out today. To answer some previous questions about basketball, one, LeBron is the GOAT. I think he's just a better two-way player over Michael. Second of all, you picked the correct player in Steve Nash, two-time MVP, fucking one of the best passers in the game ever. And then, yeah, I think that was it to answer the previous questions from before.
100%. Well, I think we just jump into hey, David, you're still backstage. This is kind of unprecedented. I know you saw the Super Mario Brothers movie. Do you want to join us? Do you have time? Brooklyn, are you okay with that?
I don't care, yeah.
Sweet, yeah. Our first our first double guested review. David, welcome back. All right, well, I'm just going to give a quick plot synopsis. If you don't know what Mario is, the Super Mario Brothers movie follows two Italian plumbers in the nice city of Brooklyn that are eventually transported to the Mushroom Kingdom. We learned that the Mushroom Kingdom, as many different kingdoms in this world, is getting attacked by a tyrant by the name of King Bowser. Nice. I love that, David. King Bowser voiced by Jack Black, Mario voiced by Chris Pratt. This movie has a heck of a voice cast, and it's about Mario teaming up with Princess Toadstool herself, Peach, in order to fend off the threat of Bowser. Brooklyn, I'm going to start with you. Can you let us know your history with Mario in general? Because I know you're one of the few people I know that loves the character of Mario as much as me.
So yeah, I've grown up with Nintendo, having the NES whenever I was 6 years old. The first game that I played was Super Mario Brothers 2. So that is the one that I think will be always like my personal like favorite. But in terms of objective quality, like you go to the later ones with like Mario World, I believe, and then Mario 3. But yeah, I've played most of the games, like growing up, like I was the Mario person and my brother was the Zelda person. So we finally got a lot of the games mixed in. And yeah, just when they announced this movie, I was skeptically curious, where it's like, I think this is going to do well given how video game movies have done as of late. But it's also Mario. And I just didn't know with the initial casting of one Chris Pratt.
Yeah, definitely the casting of Chris Pratt was definitely a little controversial at the time, and we'll definitely be getting into how you thought it played out. I'm a little out of focus on my end, so David, while I'm trying to get back into focus, why don't you let everyone know your history with the character of Mario as a franchise?
You're muted. Yeah, you're muted. Try that. Nope.
Am I good now? Hello?
Yes, you are good.
My bad. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'm a casual gamer. I'm an 80s kid, so I grew up with the games, of course. I had Super Nintendo, played like Mario Party, Nintendo, Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, all the Nintendo games too. So I even saw the live action film in 1993 in theaters. I was really excited for it. I didn't know what I was watching at the time, so I still enjoyed it. I was like 7, so I still liked it. But yeah, I mean, I would play Mario Kart, play Mario Party, play a lot of Mario games with my friends all the time. So, yeah.
A question for everybody here: what is your favorite Mario Kart?
Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, I think that has to be the one.
Like what would you say, David?
I don't know. I don't know, the one on Switch, Mario Kart.
Yeah, Mario Kart 8. I like it's just objectively like the best one. Some of the best courses throughout the entire series. Even with Deluxe, like you have so much awesome DLC. Brooklyn, what's your favorite Mario Kart?
It's Double Dash, but yeah, just in terms of DLC, like you're getting basically an entire other game. Now, the DLC courses in general are a bit of a mixed bag because you're getting stuff from like Tour to original stuff. I think the original stuff is done well. The last wave they did a course on Yoshi's Island. I think it introduced some of the mechanics of that game quite well. Like the question mark kind of plays a ramp, but that's more so about the games. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned just the entire world of Mario. And David, thank you for mentioning that 90s movie. Look, it's not good. I have a ton of fun watching that movie. Like I own it on DVD. If anyone is like, do you want to watch Super Mario Brothers? I'm like, I'm totally down. Like, I think that movie is such a blast.
Bob Hoskins is the perfect Mario. What can I say? What can I say?
Yeah,
Gazan was great too. Yeah.
Who would know a British classically trained actor would be so good at playing this Italian plumber? But yeah, in general, like you think of Mario and you think of the iconography, you think of the world of the Mushroom Kingdom, and I think one of the biggest pluses of this movie, regardless of how I feel, is it is so much fun seeing the Mushroom Kingdom on the big screen. Like, I think the colors of this movie pops. I love the details of all the background. Like, you see your Goombas, you see your Toads, you see your Piranha plants in the background. I think Illumination, regardless of what you think about this movie, really went full on in detail of like designing this world, and I'm happy that they spared no expense of it. Brooklyn, what did you think of just seeing the Mushroom Kingdom on the big screen?
I thought it was really cool. Like to see it above that video game grade of animation, I thought was really well. Like the opening scene of the penguins versus the Koopas, I thought was done really well. I loved the Kongs, and in particular, like just the times that they were able to throw in reference and somewhat like there's this scene like where they cut to where they cut to Diddy Kong, but then as well like unvoiced you get the rest of the DK64 crew, Tiny Kong and Chunky Kong. I don't remember if we see Lanky Kong, but we definitely see Tiny and Chunky.
Yeah. David, what did you think about just seeing the Mushroom Kingdom and seeing all these cool like Easter eggs?
Oh yeah, I mean it was awesome. It was awesome to see it in come to life really in on the screen, on the big screen. So yeah, to see all the little references, I caught a little, oh yeah, that. It's like, yeah, it was just cool to see the whole world like brought to screen, and then all the little old and tributes to the game was like really well done. I thought like from the beginning scene in the real world when like Mario and Luigi's going to work, and then you saw that side view of them like hopping and stuff like that, just like the game. That was really cool, and saw a little like, oh, that the bar was called Duck Hunt or something. It was the Duck Hunt logo on it. Yeah, I think it was really well handled. It wasn't like overwhelming or anything like that.
Yeah, one of the other things I just love, and I feel we were just jumping from positive to positive right out the gate, but I think it just flows right into just like these like references to Mario. Like every time we got a classic theme from Koji Kondo, of course, the composer of Mario, it just made my heart just like skip a beat. Just hearing that in the theaters, like whether it's the classic Mario theme or the underground theme. At one point, like during the credits, you hear the Super Mario Galaxy theme, which I still stand by. The soundtrack to Super Mario Galaxy, maybe to this day, my favorite like orchestral, like pure orchestral soundtrack in a video game. It just made me so happy. Brooklyn, I'll go to you first. What did you think of the classic themes?
I thought the themes were quite well. Going back to the Kong section, I thought they used like the original theme from that quite well. I think my favorite little reference of that was that whenever Luigi's phone goes off and it's the GameCube thing. Yes. I think there was a missed opportunity though because later on, whenever they go into the pipe and like you get like a tonal reference to Luigi's Mansion in a sense. So he doesn't have like he doesn't have the Puron flashlight, but it's pretty close. I just wish that he like at least hummed the theme because I feel like that was such a cool moment, especially like in that game for it to kind of carry out. But yeah, because they use the new theme, the underground, and like the underground one went out whenever it's like Bowser and Kamek. Kamek is fucking awesome as well in this movie, but yeah, if I had to pick a favorite moment, it's definitely like the GameCube theme.
No, 100%. I also David, what do you think about the themes? I'm so sorry.
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, so the Mario theme is like the greatest video game theme of all time. So Brian Tyler did a great job, like doing his own, the score of this, really great, well done. Yeah, just all the cues was great. I just, my favorite. It's a spoiler, but it's at the ending, so I'm not gonna say much about it. But yeah, the ending, that cue, the climatic action scene, that music scene was perfectly well done by Tyler. So. Yeah, I mean the score was pretty good. Can't really complain about it.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think the score from both Brian Tyler. I think Brian Tyler is an underrated composer in general. One thing I always come back to is like his theme for like the full Rambo film. I think is weirdly like underrated and people don't talk about enough. And yeah, Koji Kondo, I think his music is great. Like the classic when. Even like when the Dr. Mario theme plays at one point, I'm like, let's go. Just I just love that. Yeah. But that kind of goes into one of my biggest complaints of this movie. Enough with the constant use of licensed music. Like at one point, it just had me saying like, enough. If we are going to give David Ayer crap for what he did with Suicide Squad back in 2016, we need to give this movie crap because like. Just like using like Take On Me and just other stuff, like it just took me out of it. And like every time I thought I was like, man, I'm really enjoying like this like really unique animated movie, it kept reminding me, that's right, it's an Illumination movie, and we'll get more into this. I feel like it was constantly at odds with each other, which kept me from like liking it. Brooklyn, just in general, what was your thoughts on those constant music cues?
Yeah, the soundtrack in this is very uninspired, let's say. Like, I think what happens is that this movie kind of tries to balance a line between like kids and family, and it just leans towards the kids because I feel like these moments where you are having the adults kind of like, all right, this is your moment for you guys to kind of have a little nostalgic moment. It's like, really? Like, you're picking fucking Take On Me, you're picking Thunderstruck, and I forget the other song that they use, but like,
yeah.
Like, man, you could have thrown in a little like Rihanna, Shut Up and Drive, like just a forgotten 2000 song that would have been great.
You know. Fair. No,
same 80s.
I love this. David, what do you think about those music cues?
I wouldn't say it took me out of the film, but I don't think it was needed. Especially with when they went to Donkey Kong's Kingdom and just Take On Me was playing, they could have done a Brian Tyler score easily for that scene. Like how I praised the 80s soundtrack for Air, yeah, that film did perfectly selected songs for the movie. This one, yeah, picked songs that we've heard like billions of times before. At least it could have picked something that was like different and unique and not heard much. But yeah, I mean, it didn't take me out of the movie, but it wasn't needed. I would just say that.
100%. I want to tackle something that Brooklyn said because I've seen it sort of like a little bit of a point of contention about this movie and just about animated films in general, where it seems like this is one, like there are certain animated movies that are very clearly like trying to appeal to everyone, that are trying to appeal to families, that are trying to appeal to kids and to adults. And there are some animated movies that are just very squarely focused for kids. This is a movie that is absolutely just focused towards kids, and it doesn't try to do anything else above that. Now, I think there are good things about that, and I think there are bad things about that. I think the good things about that, where if it does that well, I'm never going to say it's bad. I'm never going to like if it does that well, I'm not going to say it's bad. Now, if it does it poorly, I'm going to call it out. Like a movie like Shark Tale is a bad movie, even though it's just going for kids, because it's just a bad movie. This is not a bad movie per se, but at the same time, I have to ask myself, I wish that it was trying to go a step beyond. Like, I wish that it wasn't as. I'll be honest, I think the plot of this movie is very bare bones. I think the humor of this movie is very generic. And it's something that kept me from truly loving the movie. Like, there were points where I was super into it. Like, I think some of the set pieces are incredible. Like, if you've seen the trailer, the Mario Kart sequence, I think is awesome. And that was the moment where I was like, this is movie magic. But then I would just I just kept being reminded myself, like, all right, this is kind of a cookie cutter animated film, and it's not really going that much above that. And I wish it did. It doesn't keep me from not liking the movie, but it definitely keeps me from loving the movie. Brooklyn, what do you think about this this sort of dilemma, if that makes sense?
No, I understand the dilemma, because like the funniest thing in this movie, or the funniest things of the movie in general, aren't even like Nintendo related. Like on the drive home from seeing this, the movie that I was often comparing it to in terms of like where I feel like it should have been is like the Lego movie, the Lego Batman movie, where it's like you can still have those kid moments, you can have that kind of bare bones simple plot, but then I think you have time to like kind of poke at yourself in a way. And maybe that was hindered because Shigeru Miyamoto was an executive producer, so they probably had like a certain line that they needed to follow. But like a Seth Rogen giggle shouldn't be the funniest thing. I laughed out loud when it happened because it was great. But there was just like, there were things that were kind of distracting about the movie. Like I found like Fred Armisen was a little. I don't know if he was like necessarily doing an original voice, or is just him kind of like doing a caricature.
I definitely felt that as well, and we'll definitely get into the voice cast. But David, what do you think about this whole like, what should an animated film be for, and like, did that bother you?
I don't know. It's tough because I mean, okay, most I would say, yeah, most animated films should try to balance that aim towards adults and kids. For this one, I mean, I felt like this was totally aimed for kids and people who love the game,
yes,
who grew up with the games, things like that. It's not made for people who'd never played the game before. I mean, but I just watched this movie. It just felt like it was I don't know. It didn't need like a big plot to me. I just felt like it was all about the journey, about like just building the world and like going through just the adventure of Mario and Luigi. That being said, yeah, I mean, I know they just chose to play kind of safe and just made like a simple story. I mean, it could have been meta. They could have gone meta just like Lego Movie did. But the movie I feel like it served its purpose. I don't know. I don't know like how more it could have been. Like it's just
no.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. Yeah.
No, yeah, it sucks getting on a movie that you can clearly see, like you said, served its purpose, but at the same time, I'm not always watching a movie to be safe. And when I come on to review a movie, I try to just look at it in a little bit more critical eye of like, what more could it have done? So you bring up the meta concept, and honestly, like, I wouldn't have loved that as much. Like, I'm kind of happy it didn't take like the winks and references. It didn't like stop the movie to do, and I do appreciate that. But I think like Brooklyn mentioned the Lego Batman movie, like the way how that movie makes you care for Batman and Robin and Batgirl by the end, I think is something that I think this movie's just kind of lacking, because I just didn't like love the characters as much as I wish, even though I'm coming in with like this huge this huge love for the characters in general, because I played this series essentially my entire life.
I do want to say, I mean, you could see they were trying to set that up with Mario and Luigi and their brotherhood and like their family dynamic and stuff. Even with Peach and her backstory, they showed a glimpse of that and didn't really dive as much as they could have. So for that, yeah, they could have done more development with those characters.
This movie also gets pretty ballsy in the sense that they introduce new things, like a character that we've never seen before, a character that we've never seen get certain powers before gets powers, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute here. I understand why we're doing this, but it's like let the audience kind of digest this and especially for those who are falling in love with the game, it's like you're making this kind of huge moment. But then they just kind of turn it into a montage, and they just kind of let it pass by. And then like we talk about like the fan service and all the references that they have, but then you get into that Mario Kart scene, and then you meet like the final Koopa, and then you realize like what his intention is, and they miss the whole part of like that one item.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. Like when that is used, I'm like, that's funny, but like I'm getting super nerdy, and I'm gonna try to move on, trying to review the movie. I want to get on into the cast and characters. I say we start like, let's just start off with like the tip of the iceberg. I think Chris Pratt was fine. Like, everyone was making fun of his accent for the trailer. I don't think he was horrible. I didn't think he was great. Honestly, I think this just goes into the entire franchise as a whole. Mario is probably the most boring character in the entire Mario cast of characters, and I think it's been that way for a while. He's just sort of a blank slate. He always is. He's mainly a silent protagonist, except for his like, yippee, mamma mia stuff. But at the same time, I think Charlie Day is incredible as Luigi. We did not get enough Luigi, and that really made me sad. Characters unfortunately sidelined throughout the majority of the movie. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is great as Peach. I think the way how they sort of transformed Peach into being like this really cool like ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom was a ton of fun, and I loved Jack Black as Bowser. Like, this version of Bowser, I think, is great as like this sad sack. Like, easily the funniest joke to me in this entire movie was Bowser's ballad that he is writing for Peach, that he plays on his piano. I just love how like weirdly comedic and weirdly sad this ballad is. Brooklyn, who was your favorite character, and what did you think of the voice cast as a whole?
I think the voice cast overall was pretty great. Anya Taylor-Joy's Peach, I think, was my favorite, where like they didn't venture too far off from the character itself. Then I would probably go Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. I thought he was like basically Captain Toad without being named Captain Toad. And then Charlie Day as Luigi was great. I didn't notice the amount of or the lack of Luigi. I thought he was just kind of used enough as kind of like the damsel in distress. I think it kind of makes sense when you're going that simple of a plot for him to kind of just show off his scared tendencies. You mentioned like the Jack Black Princess Peach song, or making the song about Peach. I feel like that's an entire like Adam McKay kind of improv moment where it's like, all right, Jack Black, we need you to make the cheesiest fucking song about you being in love with Princess Peach. It's like, all right, you give me half an hour and I'll be back. And this is what he came with. And it's like, I cringed at it at first and I was like, okay, like this is, I think it served its purpose. Chris Pratt as Mario, however, it didn't. I felt like it could have been something else. I honestly thought that he was doing like an okay Mark Wahlberg impression. And at that point, I was like, why do you not just get Mark Wahlberg for this movie? Because I feel like he does this. I feel like he would do just as good of a job, if not better. Like I feel like in this, like obviously nowadays, like with voice acting, you're not necessarily getting the best quality of voice actors. You're getting the star power for people to go see the movie, and it just sucks. And it's like, man, now I want to see this movie with Mark Wahlberg in it.
Princess Peach, we're in a heap of trouble. Look at if I Donkey Kong. What am I gonna do? No, that would be incredible. David, what did you think about the characters and the cast as a whole?
I love Charlie Day as Luigi. He was my favorite because I love Luigi. I love Charlie Day, and then I think it just perfect hand in hand. I do agree he wasn't in it enough, but it paid off. Oh well, okay. Everybody was great. I mean, of course, Seth Rogen just being Seth Rogen just fits right along with the Donkey Kong's character. I don't know why. I wish we could have a spinoff of that for his character. Everybody else is great. Even Chris Pratt. I wasn't distracted by his voice. Of course, I think there could have been a better voice out there for this, but it it wasn't like, like affecting me watching the movie. But I mean, they have to go this route. It's good they didn't go with the original Mario voice. I don't think I could stand it for like an hour and a half with that voice. This is my hot take maybe, but I don't know, because
I do think having Charles Martinet there kind of hindered his performance, because especially like early on in the movie, like you would have Chris Pratt, and then they would cut to him, who was, I think his character was called Jumpman, and he's done in the traditional Donkey Kong style of of blue and red overalls. And I just feel like if you limit him to more of like a Stan Lee cameo where you don't really like market it, and you don't rely as hard on like, oh well, Chris Pratt is going to be here and Charles Martinet. You got to let him, I think, kind of stand out.
Yeah. David brings up a point that I've been thinking of. Could we handle like a full movie where you are just hearing that like Mario was? And I'm not just talking about like from like a stereotypical thing. I'm just saying like, can we handle, like, would it get annoying? And I think David does bring up some good points there. But yeah, I just think Pratt was just, I don't want to say phoning it in, but I just think it was just a fine performance as a whole. And it just sucks because I think everyone around him was giving a lot more to this movie.
True.
Someone I do want to give special mention to, he's a really great voice actor. Kevin Michael Richardson voices the Magic Koopa, who is essentially Bowser's like right-hand person.
He was great. I should have said so, yeah.
The relationship between Bowser and this Magic Koopa, I loved. Like that was some of my favorite parts of the movie. But yeah, if you guys are down for it, would you guys be willing to get into the final scores?
Yeah. I do want to bring out Luma Lee real quick too.
Yes. Oh,
hilarious.
What an awesome character.
That's now come on, that was funny.
Okay, here's the thing. I liked it as a whole. I could very clearly tell. Okay, here's the intent to make a new character to sell a bunch of toys. Like I hate to look at it from such a cynical point of view, but that was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that.
That was the thing for adults to kind of latch on to near the end, where it's like you could, like, I feel like all the frustration that you kind of have from that kind of just pays off, where it's like, it's gonna be peaceful.
No, it definitely was a very funny joke of having the star just be full of like existential dread, but at the same time just talking in the cutest way. Brooklyn, you were watching backstage. Out of a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, what would you give this movie? And remember, you can go half a videotape if you like.
Yeah. I'm gonna go 6.5.
6.5 videotapes. Would you like to give a little context to that?
Yeah, I think this is serviceable as a Nintendo movie. I would say that the best uses of this is go with a group. And just, I think that experience is necessary. And I wouldn't really say check it out afterwards. It'd be a cool one to throw on if you have kids over. But yeah, I don't think it's necessary to check out again. For an adult perspective, I guess.
100%, 6.5, decent score. David, what would you give this movie out of 10?
I think 7.5.
7.5.
It was a fun movie. Had a good time. Certainly, all I had the feels in certain moments of the film. I think it was a good, solid effort as a first movie. I think when a sequel comes, I think they could take a lot of these critiques and try to flesh it out in the next movie. So hopefully, can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, and looking at the box office of this movie, we are going to be getting a sequel to this film. I'm actually going to be fairly in line with Brooklyn, where I'm also going to give it a 6.5. It does its job. 6 out of 10 is a passing grade for me, and I do think this was a decent film. I think that the fact that this movie has sort of low aspirations and doesn't really go much beyond that, I think does kind of hurt it when I'm just judging it as a whole. But I can't deny that I do think it is effective at what it does. If you do have kids, I think they will have a blast. If you don't, there's really not much there's really not much reason to go and see this movie in theaters unless you are a huge fan of the Mario movie. I realize I didn't say this with Air. You should absolutely go see Air in theaters. Support those types of movies. Like anyone, like must see immediately. But yeah, Super Mario Brothers, unless you have kids, it really isn't that big of a priority.
Take kids to the theater so they can ask you after, hey, what was that song Take On Me? Can you tell me more about that song?
Absolutely. Well, before we head out, I'm just going to leave questions, comments up. But we sort of tackled it a little earlier, but I just want to get your guys' opinion. What is your favorite overall Mario game? David, I'll start with you because I feel like Brooklyn's going to want to.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not gonna go into because I don't play that much game of that, but yeah, I mean, yes, Switch Mario Kart would be one of my favorite. Actually, Mario N64 Mario Party was really fun.
Nice. Of 1, 2, and 3, where would you did you have a favorite Mario Party?
To be honest, I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was 3.
No, Nikki Johnson just asked, where is Uncle Buddy? Not sure. Own a shoe company, I guess, and then I'll have you on, Uncle Buddy. You're great. I love you. Sorry, buddy. Brooklyn, what is your favorite Mario game?
So of the Mario parties that you mentioned, Mario Party 2 is my favorite. I love the dual aspect of it. Super Mario Galaxy, I think I'm going to say is my favorite. Being able to play as a Luigi, I think was just such a cool moment. But I have a special heart or a special place in my heart for the sports games. Like the latest Mario Golf game was very fun. I kind of hope they go back into the baseball again. The soccer one most recently was a bit of a dud. There was customization elements in it, but it kind of fell flat on like the overall zaniness of it. But yeah, Galaxy for the score, the level design, and yeah, the fucking purple coins. Goddamn you.
No, yeah. Super Mario Galaxy would be my pick. I just think it's one of the greatest 3D platformers of all time. I think they added the perfect amount of motion control. I think all those galaxies, whether it's Freeze Flame Galaxy, Gusty Gardens Galaxy, I think is incredible. But my second favorite is going to be one of the spin-offs, and that is going to be Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I love Mario RPGs, and I think that is easily my favorite one. I think it added the perfect amount of story to it. I love the dialogue. I love each different of like the 7 chapters you go to. That is my favorite. Like that is a game that I could just play at any time.
If you want to go play a game where Mario's in the apocalypse, you can go play the sequel of that, Super Paper Mario for the Wii. It's fucking dark and it's
underrated.
Long.
Underrated. Yeah. David, you look like you were.
I want to throw in Mario Tennis. I forgot about that. That's a great.
Mario Tennis is so much fun.
Yes.
Oh, that and Mario Power Tennis on the GameCube. Like, I love both those games. All right, well, I think that just about does it. Thank you everyone for watching tonight. This is the longest we've gone, and when you have essentially 4 guests on, between Uncle Mike, Brooklyn, and David twice, it was going to happen. Brooklyn, thank you so much for joining us tonight. When I was first starting to open up the concept of having multiple guests on, I was like, I want David to come on to review Air because I know how much he loves basketball, but I needed you on to review Mario because you are one of the biggest Nintendo fans I know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, remember to like this video. Remember to subscribe to the video store. It helps us grow our channel a lot. Watch this man's show, the set list every, what day is it?
Every Thursday.
Every Thursday, yes.
Yeah, and then very soon we have like 500 Stones season 3, where we're going through our top 500 list. So that will be coming out within the next, I think, couple weeks or so.
That is very fun. But yeah, watch that. Watch Filmography. Watch Movies Are My Life. Very soon we're having the return of It Came From the Video Store. Gonna have a ton of really cool stuff there. But I think that just about does it. Follow me at _Cinemaster on Letterboxd. Do you guys have Letterboxd? You guys would like to promote?
Brookie B10.
Demolition Man 11.
That's fair. Yes. I will start getting banners for those because I know how much this community loves Letterboxd. But in the meantime, thank you all for joining me tonight. Next week, we have reviews of Renfield, the new Nicholas Cage Dracula movie. Nicholas Cage is finally playing Dracula. Dream role for us all, I know. And we have one of my most anticipated movies of the year, Suzumi, a new animated film from Makoto Shinkai, one of the great animated directors, as far as I'm concerned, guy who did Your Name. If you have not seen Your Name, one of the best films of the past 10 years. It brings a tear to my eye every time. But yeah, thank you all for joining us tonight. Have a great night, everyone.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.